Hi everyone, it's Dr. Rizk over at the Wellness Center, and I just wanted to take an opportunity today to talk a little bit about some different things with COVID, uh, particularly the stress that we're all going through as we try to go through this together. Um, I'm sure you've all read and I've talked about a lot of the physical impact that COVID has had on a lot of us, but specifically today, just to look at our mental capabilities as we go through this and what's been happening. Um, so the anxiety and the stress that we're all experiencing as we go through this, I just want to say that anxiety is a good thing. You know, it's good to have a little bit of anxiety. Um, Physiologically, what happens when someone gets anxious is a part of the brain that gets triggered. Okay, and it starts to work a little bit extra hard. That part of the brain called the amygdala, when it's working extra hard, it's signaling that there is what perhaps you may have heard of as the fight or flight response, but it's signaling some kind of danger. Um, that's not always the case, right? It's not always the case that that part of the brain gets triggered, and in fact, it's dangerous all the time, but it may feel like that all the time. Uh, so uh, that's why I say that having a little bit of anxiety is actually beneficial. It's how we protect ourselves. It's how we prepare for certain situations that otherwise we wouldn't be able to handle if we're not prepared. So normally when we are anxious or overly anxious, you know, what the feelings that we tend to have are a direct result of the chemicals that are being produced. So normally what ends up happening is where the body needs more blood to the muscles. You know, we tend to breathe a little bit faster. So we're taking in more oxygen, we have less carbon dioxide because we're, shallow breathing. We are moving blood from digestion to our muscles, so we can tend to be a little bit more nauseated. It almost feels like everything is closing up. Heart rate can go up again in preparation of handling a dangerous situation. When those things are happening, our ability to make good decision or to be have clarity of mind is impaired. And that's the biggest thing about anxiety, right? And that's when we're overly anxious and we're not able to make good, clear decisions. So a lot of times you hear, some of the tactics to help with stress or anxiety, and just even some of the simple things of, just take a deep breath or count to 10. Well, why does that even matter? Well, when we're doing that, we're essentially trying to target some of the physical aspects of anxiety in hopes that it would quiet or calm down that part of the brain that's being triggered. So when you're taking some deep breaths, what you're doing is you're allowing more time to get rid of carbon dioxide. You're circulating blood to the essential organs. You're distributing oxygen to your brain a little bit better, to your body a little bit better. So again, simple things that we can all do, but just to kind of help us see whether a certain situation we're in, whether it truly is an emergency or is not. Now, that being said, I'm not saying that COVID-19 is not an emergency. I mean, as everybody knows, it's a national emergency. We're all being asked to do things that we have not done before, but we have to kind of look at when we feel stressed or anxious as to whether the feelings that we're having are truly an emergency at this time or a little bit maybe different. It's really easy for the brain to mix up when a situation is safe and when a situation is comfortable, right? And those things sometimes overlap a little bit, but they're not the same. Okay, so what might be unsafe and would trigger our amygdala to react and protect us isn't the same when something isn't comfortable. You know, you can look at the social distancing, for example. It's something that is completely different. It's what we are asked to do at this time that we know works to help mitigate the rate of spread of COVID-19. And even though it's what we know works, for a lot of people over time, that ends up becoming a source of stress and a source of anxiety. Because we're not doing the things that we're used to doing. We're not shaking hands. We're not hugging people. We're not, spending time with people that normally we would spend time with. We're spending a lot of time at home, and it's really easy to just feel isolated and feel disconnected and feel like we're all alone. Meanwhile, we're exposed to a lot of information out there, from different sources of news or social media, and it feels like we need to have more information so that we're more informed and more prepared. And that can be a trap sometimes. We feel, the more anxious we feel, the more information we need to seek, the more we want to read to be able to be prepared on what may be happening next, what we need to do if the country reopens again, and when that could be, and whether we should be wearing masks or not, and maybe even look at the situation and say, is this even a good idea to reopen? And as maybe perhaps a lot of you are reading, there's a lot of debate on what is the right thing, and these are a lot of big decisions that smart people out there are trying to figure out what is the best thing to do right now. But our job is to kind of look at that and say, well, what's a healthy amount of this that I truly need? I know I need to stay informed, but to what level? Okay, and what level of information is going to drive my stress level and anxiety to an unhealthy state that I'm no longer able to have clear thought? Okay, and that's kind of that fine area that I just want us to call our attention to and to be aware of, because I think it's great to have information. It's great to be informed. I personally have to keep up with a lot of stuff, but a lot of times it gets extremely overwhelming. Every day there's more information about COVID, and you just get tired of hearing it. But we have to kind of stick with what we know. We have to stick with what we know. We know that social distancing works. We've already seen that it's lowered the spread of the disease. We know that hand hygiene works. There's a lot of other stuff that folks are putting out on social media. We want to be aware of, is this other people's stress that's being projected that we're reading that's causing us more stress? At what point do I say, okay, I don't need to read anymore? At that point, I'm not really gaining any more information. I'm just becoming more stressed out for no reason. Okay, and those are some of the things that I just want us to be careful with and just look out for. We think of anxiety sometimes as this bad thing, but again, I just want to say that everybody gets anxious. Anxiety, generally speaking, is a good thing because it helps us prepare and it helps us stay safe. It's when it becomes excessive in the sense of, someone who might be anxious enough that they're not able to sleep, or worried enough that they can't go out in public, or they can't go to the grocery store, or they can't do anything, or they feel like they have to, be extremely rigid through this time. Again, knowing what we know and doing the proper measures to protect ourselves, I believe, is sufficient to keep us safe. I just want us to be able to see when the question of whether something is safe or not is being mixed up with something that is very unusual, okay, than what we normally would do. Um, so, you know, it's the invisible enemy, right? So how do we prepare for it? We don't know how it's going to strike. We don't know what effect it will have on us. We don't know how, why or how certain people, are sicker than others, and that's what makes it very scary. I just want to encourage everyone to just look for that fine line of information, but also taking care of yourselves so that you're able to take care of other people. Okay, and perhaps for some people, taking care of themselves may just be, I'm going to take a break from looking at the news for a day or two. Okay, and maybe for others it may be going out for a walk, or video chatting with a close friend, or calling a family member, or doing something nice for someone else that just allows us time to disconnect from what we're going through, but spend some mental energy on others. Things like that, I do believe, that are able to help us get through this time, but also help us invest time in the right things. We're available for you at the Wellness Center. I know this is very difficult. Please feel free to reach out if we can help in anything, if it's just to call and talk about what you're going through, or just some ideas on where to, what to do when you're going to the grocery store, or how to best manage social distancing and what other people are doing. I just want to say we're here for you. We want to do this together. And I just thank you again for being patient through this, for doing the right thing, and for extending that same level of patience to other people that are going through a difficult time and really are in need of people to be supportive, to be friendly, to embrace this new change, and to kind of not look at it as our freedom is being taken away. In a way, we're gaining a lot of new things that we would have never thought we would get. The time that we're spending with family, the opportunities to do things differently through telecommunication or whatever you may be doing. But just a lot of different opportunities to connect now, and we don't want to look at it as a handicap, but rather as new opportunities to grow. Thanks again for everything that you're all doing, and like I said, we're here if you need anything.